Hey, so you're interested in creating a book, maybe one for kids. Last episode, episode 2, I talked to you about creating the habit. In this episode, episode 3, I wanted to talk to you about research. So stay tuned. Hey fellow story lovers and creatives, it's Nate Stout again, or Nathan Stout is my author name, and I am continuing my series on how to create a kid's book, or a story for kids, or whatever kind of a story you're creating. It's our next episode, episode 3, and we're going to talk about research today. Because research is important. It sounds really boring. It sounds like one of those words that your teacher in elementary, junior high, middle school, high school, whatever school you remember, teachers telling you about research and how boring that sounds. This is going to be the fun kind of research. So yeah, let's talk about research and how it's going to get you to where you want to be. So I've talked to you in episode 1 about taking an idea and pushing your idea. And research is one of those ways that you can really push your idea to take it farther and get you to where you're trying to go. So what do you need to know about your idea? Do you need to know everything about it? I certainly encourage you to think you do not need to know everything about what the subject matter is that you're writing. There are some things that are going to be helpful, but don't feel like you need to know everything. Research is going to fill in a lot of gaps, but if your main goal, if your main pursuit is feeling like you know everything about a certain subject, you're always going to find somebody that knows more. And if they're a jerk, they're going to throw it in your face, sometimes at a very inopportune time. So just know there's going to be people out there like that anyways. So don't make yourself not create something amazing because you're worried about something not being 100% correct. Case in point, my books that I've written so far and published, they're about fairies. Do I know everything in the world about fairies? No. Every bit of folklore from every country in the world? No. Do I need to know all of that stuff? No. Definitely not. You can create a book on whatever it is that you're interested in, whatever the idea and how you've pushed it. You can create a story about that subject without knowing everything that's ever been created by every writer or movie production company or TV show, Netflix, Hulu, whatever it is. You don't need to know all of that stuff. The more you know, the more helpful, but definitely don't feel like you need to know everything that's out there and that everything has to fit into this world in order for it to be right, to be accepted by the general population, because most likely the population out there hasn't caught all of that stuff as well. So where would be a good source of research? I guess here's where it's going to kind of come up to you and what your idea is. So I talked about my first idea being a story about fairies. In my second book, the one I wrote for NaNoWriMo last year in 2018, was a story about a boy who genetically is modified to take on some characteristics of a shark. That's kind of more of like a little more scientific. As far as talking about a source of research, there's a lot of directions or a lot of places where you could go to look things up, to find ways of challenging your idea and making it better. Are all of them great? No. But it helps to just start looking. More ideas will start showing up. Google's a great place to go and just research some stuff. Wikipedia as well. If you're writing a paper for college, it's like the one place they tell you to never go. But if you're trying to acquire some general knowledge, it's a good place to go. And there's quite a few places like that. You can go to the library and look up a book on the subject. You can go to Amazon and buy a book on the subject, usually for not too much money. If you're just trying to acquire a general sense of knowledge, just get a little bit first, and then that will kind of make you more aware of what direction you need to go to get a little bit farther. Does your book, especially if it's a kid's book, need to be 100% correct? I don't really feel like it does. Maybe I'm wrong on the subject. But so I've previously mentioned that I've written these books about fairies. For NaNoWriMo last year, I wrote a book about a boy that's genetically altered to resemble more of a shark because I have a son that loves sharks. And so a big tie for me into this storyline was creating kind of this superhero-ish book about this boy and kind of the adventures that he goes on after acquiring some of these genetic enhancements. Does that mean I am the best, that I so severely understand genetics to the molecular level that no one could ever say, well, this is impossible? No, but honestly, do people going in to see an Avengers or a Marvel movie, do they say, well, that's not possible? No, they don't care about that stuff if they're going to watch or consume a story that's about someone that they feel passionate about, someone that they really want to root for. They don't care that the superpowers don't really make sense. So I encourage you not to get trapped by the idea that I really need to figure this all out. If I don't figure this all out, then I can't do it. Don't trap yourself inside that mindset. Just go out there and start getting a little bit of information. For me, it was helpful to start looking up differences between different kinds of sharks, different needs of different groups. That this boy in my story that's very passionate about sharks and knows a lot about sharks, when he's walking around and kids are asking him questions, he's able to throw out some information that is correct. And honestly, you can kind of gather that from facts. So just start acquiring some information. Go for a very general amount of information that covers your idea, your subject matter, your age group that you're targeting this for. Just go for a small amount of information first, and then that kind of illuminates, as you're going into your story, what additional information you need. Don't feel like you need everything up front. The last thing I wanted to say about this idea of research is drawing from real life. I feel like a great way to push your knowledge, push your understanding of your subject, what you're writing about, the world you're writing about, is to gather some information from real life. Because you can read about some place, if you go there, or if you watch a video about that place, capturing as much information you can about that is super helpful. Here's my example. In my story about the boy that takes on these shark abilities or shark powers, it takes place in San Francisco. So for me, in my case, in my situation, I know not everybody has the ability to do this. We have family that lives in San Francisco, so I was able to take a short trip and just go there and just look around, kind of get the vibe of this place, this city. I really feel like it helped me understand, if for anything else, I wrote this last scene that takes place, it takes place at a certain location. And then when I went there to that location, which I had gathered from Google Maps, I realized it really didn't work out that way. But the next beach over, that when I was there, I really could tell, went over to the other beach, that beach fit the scene perfectly. So even though I had seen the one, looked at some pictures from Google Maps, tying other things together using the internet, I actually went there and I found out it doesn't work that way. So it can be helpful, especially if you're talking about location, to go to a place, or if you're talking about a very specific thing, go there and see that place. See someone doing whatever that process is that's showing up, and if it's something that's more critical to your storyline, it kind of fills that in with some real life experience. And even if it's not a real, it can be kind of like a partial experience. You know, watch a video on somebody making something, if that shows up in your book, or you know, somebody showing a tour of a certain location that you really wanted to capture. Video or going to that place is going to be way more helpful than just a photograph or just a dot on a map. Hopefully this was helpful on getting you some ideas on research. Research is important. Research will help you take your idea, really polish it up and turn it into something that's going to be a fantastic kids book. I want to see you make that happen because I know your story is going to be amazing, and I'm excited to see what you come up with. So let's keep going. Next, we're going to talk about characters. So stay tuned. Keep working on it. We're going to get there. So thanks for tuning in to episode 3 of my How to Create a Kids Book video series.